the American people stand firm in the faith which has inspired this nation from the beginning. We believe that all men have a right to equal justice under law and equal opportunity to share in the common good. We believe that all men have the right to freedom of thought and expression. We believe that all men are created equal because they are created in the image of God. From this faith, we will not be moved.
Hello and welcome to the Freedom of Thought podcast. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awijan. Freedom of Thought is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps. I thank each and every one of you once and always for downloading and listening to this show. It's a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today, as again we do have a President Trump-elect. So again, this show kind of goes back and forth from some politics back into maybe some other stuff like biblical, scientific, historical, cryptoids, all that kind of stuff. So obviously that's this show branches all over the place. That's why it's called Freedom of Thought. But yeah, today it's going to be a little bit political again, without being over the top, I guess. Or at least I'll try to not be. We're going to look at the cabinet for President Trump-elect. President Trump-elect 47. The White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. Sounds like a halfway decent choice. Secretary of State Marco Rubio kind of threw me off a little bit. I'm like, really, Marco Rubio? Didn't they not get along at all? And isn't Rubio kind of more of a deep stater, kind of a semi-rhino? Interestingly enough, back in 2016, the state of Minnesota voted for Marco Rubio on the Republican side. So we did not vote for Trump back in 2016 for the primaries, where this year is pretty much Trump everywhere this time around. But yeah, way back in 2016, I remember Rubio and Cruz versus Trump. That was an interesting back and forth. Trump called Marco Rubio a little Marco, and then Rubio made fun of what was it, Trump's hand size compared to something below the waist. And it's like, really, do we have to go there? I remember getting irritated with that at the time. Come on, man. So that's kind of dumb. And obviously the liberals loved dancing around all of that nonsense. By the way, this is an in-studio, if we can call it a studio, episode. So, yes, it's indoors. It's not outside hanging out. Got some breeze, got some snow dusting. I could have recorded this outside, but not when we're looking at some of this. Not when we're looking at the list of appointees and such. Most of them, I think, are good. Some of them, I'll be honest, I don't know a ton about everybody here, but it kind of is what it is. Attorney General Matt Gaetz. I think he's very much on the right side of a lot of things, obviously, and then the Democrats or the lefties and the media think that this is a psychotic choice, and oh my God, this is just crazy Trump being crazy Trump, and I guess that's what happens when this country's divisive, and we're going to get a divisive person in there, and then there's stories brought up about possible child trafficking in Matt Gaetz's past, or was it a sexual relationship with someone young, someone underage, stuff like that. So I hope all of that's not true, and I don't know, and if it's in the past, hopefully he's repented from it. So that stuff kind of bothers me, but politically, his body of work, I think Matt Gaetz obviously is probably more, put it this way. Attorney General Matt Gaetz, Minnesota Attorney General Keith frickin' Ellison. Who would I rather have as an Attorney General? I mean, you can't even, you can't even have a conversation with me without me cursing at basically a certain guy named Keith Ellison. I cannot stand that guy. He is an angry, divisive SOB. Yeah, he literally is looking for a fight all the time. Just like the post he made on Twitter when Trump was being elected, he said, "One thing's for sure, we will resist this." And I responded back to him with, "One thing's for sure, we'll resist you." And he's talking about, "Oh, call my number if you need help," and da-da-da. And it's like, what I liked is the response to Keith Ellison's post about that, call my number. It was endless responses of, "You're full of crap. You can bleep off. My case is, you've been on my case for, what was it? My case has been pending for like 3 or 4 years. You can bleep off, bleep you. You've done nothing for anybody, blankety blank." I mean, I was like, wow. Now, I don't encourage cursing at people necessarily, yet at the same time, somebody like Keith Ellison, a divisive, angry SOB like Keith Ellison, I don't feel as bad. So it's like, no, I don't want to turn this show into a bunch of cursing and angriness. Like, I know a certain caller a while back, God bless him, I love his point of view on the world, but the cursing, it's like, do we have to do that on a podcast? It's just, I know it's like people do that everywhere. I know Joe Rogan does it. I know Dan Bongino does it. I'll say a hell and damn sometimes, which is a lot more innocent. But when you start dropping F-bombs and stuff, I don't know. I don't think that's what this show is all about. So and when I said I censored things, all I censored was the cursing, like the actual really bad swear words. That's all I censored. I didn't censor the call, if that's what Ray thought at the time. Like I cut him out. No, I didn't cut the call out. I just cut out the cursing a little bit. That's it. So unfortunately, he got pissed off and disappeared. So I can't do much about that. Sorry, I don't really want F-bombs on the show. Sorry, I just don't. Deputy, and if you're listening, just in case, maybe you're giving me another chance. I do appreciate it. And you're more than welcome to call in. You can say hell and damn all you want. But if you say F and CUNT and stuff like that, do we have to do that? Is it really necessary? So that's my only point. Because I know I am a born-again Christian. I have born-again Christian people listening to the show from my church. At least I think I do. I thought I did. I have no idea. You never hear back from them, so you never know. But because people don't respond to anything in this day and age, so there's that. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. I don't know too much about him, but I have heard good things, that he's more on the, he's more of a MAGA than a rhino, at least from what I've heard. So that's good. HHS, health, and yep. Yeah, I really like what he's in charge of. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So, yep, make America healthy again. Make America healthy again. So, really happy to have Mr. Robert F. Kennedy. So, it's the Health and Human Services. Yep, just wanted to make 100% sure I'm saying the right words here. Yeah, it's not health and safety, it's Health and Human Services. And, yeah, we even have that at the factory I work at. So, yes, Health and Human Services. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Awesome. Don't agree with everything he stands for, like some of the left-wing points of view, but generally speaking, who would you take today, any day of the week, like a Robert F. Kennedy, a John F. Kennedy, or a Hillary Clinton, a Bill Clinton, a Barack Obama, a Kamala Harris, Joe Biden? I'd take the Kennedys 10 out of 10 times over that, at least the old-fashioned Kennedys. Not the other guy years ago. It was really bad. So obviously from Boston. So that was, they're all from Boston. But the Ted Kennedy, that was his name. Yeah, he was terrible. But even he would probably be better than most of the Democrats of today. Office of Management and Budget Director Russ Voigt. All right, sounds good. UN Ambassador Elise Stefanik. So, again, I don't know everybody here. Border Czar Tom Homan. Hope I'm saying it correctly. He's a tough son of a gun. He went at it with the girl they call AOC, the donkey, the literal donkey. Like, she's a donkey politically and looks donkey-like with the big teeth. She's got a really big mouth. She's arrogant. She's obnoxious. Michael Savage, obviously of the Savage Nation, calls her occasional cortex, like occasionally her brain works, like she's just a moron. Yeah, she kind of is. He basically buried her. She was basically calling him everything, and he's racist, he's a whatever, misogynist, whatever the hell the terms they want to come up with, racist, bigot, blah 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 blah. And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, he was basically responded with, well, but I deport them. Like it's time. People need to go if they're here illegally, and especially if they're breaking the law, they gotta go. So sorry. So that's a wonderful quote unquote, as they call them, border czar, Tom Homan. So it's like the border. Gotta love that. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He sounds like a good one as well. Strong conservative. Secretary of Veteran Affairs Doug Collins. National Security Advisor Michael Waltz. And it is spelled Waltz, not Walls. It does have the T. Interior Secretary Doug Berman. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright. Secretary of Transportation, not Pete Buttigieg, whatever the heck his name is, from Indiana. Yeah, so Sean Duffy there. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon. White House Counsel William McGinley, not William McKinley, the former president from long ago. That'd be interesting, right? Check out my ghost episode back in April. And yes, I will have an episode where I talk about some paranormal experiences that I experienced other than that creepy look in my cat's eye, where she clearly saw something behind me. Yeah, that was a true story. My dear friend Donna, locally from Coon Rapids, was like, is that a real story, or did you just make that up for, she didn't mean it in a bad way, but did I just make it up for a factor or whatever, for drama? It's a true story. Yep. I've always felt creepy in that basement. I don't know. But anyhow, all of that was true. I promise, I swear. Yeah. Anyhow, U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker. Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. CIA Director John Ratcliffe. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Unfortunately, locally, what do they call it? Garage Logic. Don't think that's a good pick. I don't know. I think she'll be okay for the Director of National Intelligence. She's been involved, obviously, in the military for many years. She is a Democrat turned Republican. I didn't think she'd become a Republican. I thought she'd be more of an independent, but pretty cool that Tulsi Gabbard has gone all the way over, so that's really nice. Obviously, she's probably more liberal than other Republicans on certain social issues, but then again, who knows? She's seen the radical craziness of the left, and no longer wants to deal with that anymore, just like Robert F. Kennedy, who is an independent, and he's the HHS secretary. Good for him. Tulsi Gabbard and Robert Kennedy Jr. both involved there. Pretty exciting. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, Solicitor General John DeSauer, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator. Say that fast 3 times. Dr. Mehmet Oz. So that's Dr. Oz. Remember him, who was going up against that Fetterman. Remember that guy? So Mehmet Oz. Welcome aboard, Mehmet Oz. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Administrator. CFMA. Okay, I'll stop. CFMMSA. Wow. U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. Yep, great guy. Great guy. He was the first primary candidate back in 2016, like in the primaries, Republican primaries, when it was a free-for-all, because there was no, incumbent Republican of any kind. He was the first one to endorse Trump, at least from my memory, back in 2016. Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, obviously a good guy. Really appreciate what he's brought to the table over the course of time. So U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, and a big Christian, of course. U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. U.S. Attorney for Southern District of New York. Interesting. U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Wow. Interesting. That's a very... okay. Jay Clayton. Well, where's the one for here? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, okay. Department... God. Okay, anyhow, this one's very, very fascinating. Department of Government Efficiency. Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Two billionaires who know what they're doing. Let me tell you, two billionaires who know what they're doing. One's an ultra-billionaire who's been very supportive of Trump from the beginning here in this third election, third go-round. And Vivek Ramaswamy, who, of course, endorsed Trump right away and is definitely a prospect for a future presidential candidate, along with the current vice president-elect J.D. Vance and Ron DeSantis. I think that's a nice trio there. I've kind of been, and then you have, I always wondered if Ted Cruz would run again, but I thought he was pretty good, honestly. I thought he was pretty good. In fact, he was my choice before I thought Trump was a legitimate candidate to be a president back in 2016, or 2015, excuse me, because things started very early. All of a sudden, Trump announces he's running for president, again, after going on Michael Savage a few times, and it's like, man, if only that guy could be, the nominee. Boy, things get very interesting. And then guess what happened? Donald Trump became the nominee, and then he became president. So it was cool how all that turned out years ago now. Man, 9 whole years ago, starting in 2015 into 16 and all of that. Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino, sorry, Dan. Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller. Deputy Chief of Staff for Legislative, Political, and Public Affairs, James Blair. Deputy Chief of Staff for Communications and Personnel, Tyler Budowich. President, it just goes on, doesn't it? Is it a cabinet, or is it like, I don't even know. Is it like your entire Twitter account? No, I'm just kidding. Just teasing. Presidential Personnel Office Head, Sergio Gore, without the E at the end, Gore, I guess. White House Communications Director Stephen Chung. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. So she's the White House Press Secretary. Welcome aboard, Caroline Leavitt. Let's see. I believe she's actually pretty good. Yep. Okay, nice. Yeah, should be better than what... a lot of these cabinet members should be significantly better than what was around Trump last time. There is potential for deep state nonsense because, there's a million, when you have all these different people, not every one of them is going to be full on board MAGA-ish, if you know what I mean. So that's the thing. They're just not, but a lot of them are. So it's a lot better than before. Think about it. Do you think Attorney General Matt Gaetz will be better than what Jeff Sessions turned out to be, who did literally nothing? I remember it was just like, what has he done? What's happening? He's not doing anything. Like, he's just like, sorry. It was just like a bunch of crap. Unfortunately, the Senate leader is disappointing, of course. That was pretty much that was the guy that ended up being the most disappointing, pretty much the most disappointing choice. A lot of us hoped for someone better. But unfortunately, things just did not, things did not work out, unfortunately. So, of course, it's still Mitch McConnell at the moment. But the upcoming one, John Thune, disappointing, not the one we wanted, more of a rhino. And however you look at Israel, see, I stand for Israel. But if you make that kind of your, I want to be really careful in what I say. I really do, because, I want to be really careful about what I say about that one. Normally I try not to be careful about things, but Israel's another story. That's just a different vibe. It just is. Man. It just seems, I don't know, like maybe he's more on the warmonger side of things, the McCain, the McCain type, which, we don't really want. That's the one thing. That he's one of the weaker choices. And you think South Dakota, I don't know. But, I don't know. Everybody's different. It is what it is. Luckily, it isn't Tom Daschle anymore. People like that. Remember, he was a big one in the past. Like when he lost, it was shocking years ago. Man, that was a big one. But, John Thune is going to be your Senate Republican leader coming up here with Mitch McConnell finally stepping down. Finally. It took like 50 years for that to happen. He was having like miniature strokes basically in the middle of his, that's basically what it was. It's not making fun of him. It's just a fact. So it is what it is. Sucks. Yep, and you had Stinking Chuck. Yeah, you have Stinking Chuck Schumer. He'll be the minority leader. Thankfully, it is still a mega trifecta, but there is some funky shenanigans going on trying to recount Senate and House races, unfortunately, like Arizona and such. So definitely frustrating at the end of the day. And of course, the Democrats are going to play these games. They always have. They always will. It is what it is. You read people's conversations at times asking, "Oh, how did this presidential election end so quickly? Isn't it supposed to take weeks and months? Like, why? Why did it end so fast?" And then somebody responds with, because they want to cheat, bro." And of course, it's just dumbasses. Like, what? No, I think your side's the one that cheats. I think your side absolutely cheated last time. Funny how that all turned out. How everything magically appeared like overnight in Pennsylvania and Georgia and Arizona. It's just a big joke how all that changed and went the wrong way last time around. Extremely depressing. Even North Carolina, I couldn't believe that. Like, wow, how is that possible? It made no sense back in 2020. So that was a frustration that just, it sent me to a point like my head almost exploded when they were like, Biden won. Like when the Fox News of all people announces Biden's the winner. My head almost exploded. I was so angry. It was just, we were out doing fall cleanups. I already kind of semi had a headache out there because, it's a lot of noise. We're working hard. We're blah, blah, blah. Tired, worn out a bit already, even though it's fairly early in the season, if it's like a week after the election or so. And my head was just exploding with anger. I just didn't know what to do. And that was a terrible memory for me. No, thankfully, this time around, we're back on the right side of things in so many ways. Because I remember at the time, it was a left-wing trifecta, and look what happened almost immediately. The effects of that presidency, almost immediately, like everything. We're going to shut down the Keystone Pipeline. Gas prices shot up to the moon. Tons and tons of people lost jobs, just like that. Thousands and thousands of people lost jobs. One climate nonsense after another, bringing prices up. Inflation this, inflation that. Magically all these fires start happening to like factories and such with food, farms like losing tons of turkeys and cows and or chickens and cows. Just magically all this stuff starts happening right around the same time. Amazing, like it's just intentional jacking the price up for everything to make things to weaken our country to a point that we simply become part of the New World Order. A one world government, which is, of course, the New World Order, the same thing that a lot of prominent politicians, starting back into the late 80s, were talking about, heck, probably way before that, but you first started really hearing it publicly from George H.W. Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, especially on September 11th, 1991. 10 years to the day. September 11th, 1991. The illumination of 1,000 points of light. Like, where is that coming from? Like, the President of the United States was talking about a new world order and the illumination of 1,000 points of light. Wow. I mean, and again, 10 years to the day of, an event that changed this country and in a lot of ways changed the world. Opened the door for more, for the government getting more and more involved in people's business. Less and less privacy. More and more ultra security, control, authoritarianism, which is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Luckily, again, a lot of these cabinet choices, I do believe, are on the right side of things. Certainly not all of them, but a lot of them are promising, I would have to say. I would have to say so for the most part. So, again, Matt Gaetz, yes. Pardon me. I just hope and pray that a lot of that weird stuff that's been talked about, the relationship with like some kid with somebody underage and possibly child trafficking, I pray that that's not true. You'd like to believe it's just a bunch of nonsense. I don't know, and I don't know. I'm not here to. I don't have the information. I can't come out and say it's a lie. It's a lie. I can't. If I do that, I'm putting this show's credibility on the line by doing that. I'd like to believe it is a lie, and I pray that it is. But if it is true, I pray that Matt Gaetz has repented. I pray that he's repented, no doubt. Well, I mean, it's a It's a promising future, I think. Promising future. Obviously, you have the 4 years with Trump and Vance, and then hopefully it carries over into the next election. A strong candidate that puts America first, rather than just draining everything we have to a war that we have no business being involved in, and all this insane saber rattling by Biden and the powers that be right now with Russia, where they're possibly trying to start World War III. Like, he warned about that. Joe Biden, a year ago, warned about it. If we basically, if we basically arm them with weapons, them being the Ukraine, like literally arm them with weapons rather than funding and stuff, which is still, I think, obviously, still obviously shows which side you're on and all that. He said that would be World War III, okay? Like in Biden's kind of halfway whispering voice. You put weapons there, that would be World War III, okay? Well, right now, they're talking about that, and that would be potentially World War III, okay? And obviously, the threat of a World War III before Trump can get in office could be a very be a very damning thing indeed, for so many reasons. Obviously, World War III, so many people would die. Obviously, so many people already have died in this war with Russia, Ukraine. So many people have died. So many people, especially on the Ukrainian side, which is, again, like they're just throwing them out there to die. It's just like, what are you doing? Why? Why do you have to do this? It's kind of like World War I in a lot of ways, without the assassination of somebody like the Duke at the time, Ferdinand, I believe was his name. That was insane. That's what helped start World War I. But it is kind of similar how it's all just kind of, yeah. It's a similar situation to World War I. It's not two, where you have gas chambers and all that crazy stuff going on in Nazi Germany, where it's like one country trying to take over the world basically at the time, after having a crazy fanatical group taking over that country from within, which unfortunately feels a lot more of what the left has tried to do here, in a lot of ways, more on a communist side than say Nazi side. But well, they're pretty similar at the end of the day. This saber rattling though, I mean, we just gotta pray. We gotta pray about that this does not lead to the next step, which could be very damning in so many ways. Obviously the deaths and everything, but it could also mean possibly a Franklin Roosevelt situation. And that's the last thing we want. The last thing. Franklin Roosevelt situation. Could you imagine they try to just keep this current regime in office because it's a war situation? I can't imagine they could do that at this stage now that Trump has already been elected. I think they have to switch to Trump no matter what. But who knows what kind of nonsense and shenanigans that these people, these New World Order, the New World Order bigwigs would try at the end of the day, the George Soroses of the world. So George Soros doesn't give a damn how many people die, and how many people he sacrificed their lives. As long as he was able to escape from Nazi Germany, he basically ratted out where other people were so he could get away. Think about that. That was during all that in the during the Holocaust. So, and they asked him, "Do you feel any remorse?" And he said, "No." Think about that. Just no. Wow, no remorse. That's who George Soros is, folks. So anybody that supports George Soros and think, "Oh, George Soros, oh, he's been helping the Democrats," well, you're making deals with the devil, folks. It's no wonder why it's no wonder. It's no wonder whatsoever. So I think I've made enough of a point here. I do not have enough information on some of these cabinet members. It just is what it is. Oops, I'm misspelling stuff here, but yeah, not all of them are people that I'm ultra familiar with, but a lot of them, obviously, yes, I'm happy with a lot of the choices. Happy with most of them, no doubt. Rubio, I'm a little bit confused with. A little bit. I'm not sure what to think about that. I don't know who else it would be necessarily, but I don't know. It's a strange choice. I mean, I'd almost rather have a Ted Cruz than Marco Rubio. If you're going to pick one of those two guys from the past, I think Ted Cruz is more on the right side of things than Rubio. But maybe Rubio is okay. I don't know. Some of the things he's already saying, not necessarily what we're looking for, like like another warmonger, another warmonger type. Unfortunately, that's not what we want. We talked about no wars during the Trump administration last time around. Well, we don't want any now either. So we don't want it. We don't want it. The Bushes loved wars. McCain loved wars. That's what we don't want is another McCain type necessarily, especially as a Secretary of State and Marco Rubio. Secretary of State's pretty high up there, so pretty high. It's way, way up there. It's a big boy at the end of the day. So is Attorney General, and I'll take Matt Gaetz, God willing, that he's repented from any possible transgressions of the past that have been talked about, unfortunately. So definitely looking forward to this administration going forward. Again, going to dive into some other topics in the very not too distant future, including the fact that Christmas season is kind of already upon us, like the early version of it. Thanksgiving is a holiday I love so much, and I always do a Thanksgiving episode. It's usually not real long, but we reflect upon the pilgrims, we reflect upon what all of them went through, and some fascinating stuff about, I may get into some fascinating conversation about the colony before the pilgrims that started in the late 1500s that vanished off the face of the earth. So that's kind of maybe a little teaser, a little appetizer for what could be coming on Thanksgiving this year, should I go in that direction. Fascinating conversation. I don't know if I mentioned it on a previous episode, but I may have, like in passing. So that was fascinating. I think, wow, really cool. The late 1500s. Unfortunately, they vanished, and that was really sad. But, learned about some of that, kind of like, I remember hearing a little bit about it, and then kind of like a detailed episode was brought up on one of the Dusty, I think it was a couple episodes in a row, the Dusty Tome from Haunted Cosmos, an awesome podcast. So Dusty Tomes are like these extra episodes you get if you make a small monthly subscription. That's kind of that. So not trying to plug for them necessarily, but it is a great show. So great episodes in there, and I'll talk about it some possibly going forward after doing my own research and all that. So with that said, looking forward to the Thanksgiving conversation, Christmas conversation coming up, but of course one of these days I'm going to do an episode about AI, and it could be several episodes off and on about AI, but I definitely have some thoughts on that. I'd like to dig a little more and put something more together to make it an organized actual show, kind of like the OJ one. That was an awesome, I love doing that show. I'm very proud of that one. I hope you check it out sometime if you'd like to hear a very interesting, different point of view, other than OJ did it. Slow down a little bit. That's all I got to say about that. OJ was involved, in a sense, directly or indirectly, of course. But listen to the episode, that's all. OJ, the OJ case, what really happened? Question mark. Not what really happened, I know everything. No, what really happened? And then you look at some of the interesting evidence and conversation I brought up, thanks to Bill Deere, Private Eye from Texas. With that said, again, I've kind of been bouncing everywhere. I want to give a huge shout out to all of you out there. Just thank you so much. The Mark Carlsons, Gerald String, who called into Purple Mafia. You'll hear from him if you happen to listen to Purple Mafia coming up. That's a Minnesota Vikings podcast I do. Yes, I do sports podcast. But yes, this one is kind of getting into the real world rather than just the sports world and all of that. Even a video game, retro video game podcast to kind of chill and relax doing that one. But with all of that said, I just want to thank all of you for listening to this show. Please pass it on to your friends out there, friends and colleagues, coworkers that might say, wow, I'm really excited about this mega trifecta. Well, tell them about the show, please. Some of you may have coworkers and friends that are very excited about what took place. Some of you might be, again, also interested biblically, like you want to talk about the giants of the giants. I may have some opinions of Bigfoot at some point. I don't know. I'm not huge on Bigfoot as much as, say, the giants, obviously. Giants of North America, giants all over the world, Solomon Islands and such. I'm going to do episodes on that in the future. It's fascinating stuff. Yeah, so, maybe some paranormal events that took place and other, forests. Yeah, I'm going to eventually probably throw in a small little subsidiary type of show. It's like mini shows. It'll be called Forest Dwellers. So that's going to happen one of these days. Freedom of Thought, Forest Dwellers. I made the logo a long time ago. I even displayed it on the Facebook page and I think something else. I don't know if it's Instagram and Twitter. But yeah, forest dwellers. Maybe it's me walking in the forest looking at things and wow, maybe things I noticed or things that I've seen that are out of the ordinary. So that could be some fun, interesting conversation in the future. With that said, take care, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.